This is the Steelcase Leap version 2, and if you've ever used Steelcase, they're probably one of the best chairs that you can purchase for ergonomics. So I've had this chair for just a couple of weeks. I would have to say that I like it for the most part, but there are some things that I think could be better. And in this video, I'm mostly gonna be giving you my initial impressions, but I'm also gonna kind of talk about how you can adjust it and get it set up for your personal use. The worst thing about this chair that I just didn't really care for as much is, and I already knew about this in the reviews, but it wasn't gonna be like a deal breaker for me, was the armrests. So the armrests here, they're just a little bit on the hard side. They're not really comfortable. I mean, I've had some terrible armrests in the past. I actually never really used armrests in the past. And the main reason I got this chair is because I wanted to finally start using armrests. And since using this, I actually really like them because armrests are perfect if you use them the way that they should be used. And that's just to kind of take some weight off your wrist when you're typing. The armrests actually aren't that bad. I'm kind of like leaning on them right now and they feel perfectly fine. They're just a little bit firm, which isn't really that big of an issue. They're definitely soft and there's a little bit of cushion there. So that's the worst part of it. The other thing that I don't like that much about this chair is like when I lean back, when I go to lean back a little bit, you can adjust the firmness, which is really nice. You can adjust like how the seat tilts and the force for which it tilts. Right now I kind of have it in like a happy medium, but the thing is it kind of goes like this, like it doesn't smoothly go back, and I wish it did that, and that's the other worst part about this chair. Other than that, it's not really that big of an issue. The chair that I came from before this was the Marcus chair from IKEA. I actually really like that chair. I have a lot of good things to say about it. It was really comfortable. For me, it had the perfect seat pan. And if you've ever used that chair, you have to be the exact height for that chair because there's not an adjustable seat pan. And it was just perfect. It was nice when it tilted back. It didn't have any of this jerky motion. So I'm still kind of working on that. I might be able to fix it a little bit, tweak it a little bit, because I've only had this chair for a few weeks. So I can't give you like a great review or a great honest impression. I'm just kind of giving you my initial impressions and kind of how to set it up so it's best for your ergonomic situation. Okay, now what are the best parts about this chair? This chair is highly adjustable. There's not a lot of chairs out there. So you can go to Office Depot, you can go to Amazon, and if you look at the majority of the chairs, like anywhere you find, like on pretty much any website, most of them are not ergonomic. They're not gonna be highly adjustable. And for a good ergonomic chair, if you're gonna be sitting in this chair for a long period of time, if you're working from 9 to 5, you want a chair that has really good ergonomics, right? So this chair, the reason I got it is because, first of all, I work at a desk. And so the armrests need to be able to raise, they need to be able to lower, because a lot of times the desk just gets in the way, and sometimes you want to get closer, sometimes you need to scoot back. So that's like the number one issue. And it also needs to be the proper height. You want the elbows at 90 degrees. And then also this chair, another thing that's really cool is that the armrests swivel and they also move forward and backward. And the reason you want that is, first of all, if the desk is in the way, you can move the armrest backward, and that way it doesn't jam into the desk anytime you try to get closer. And then what ends up happening is if you have these armrests that are too close, you end up sitting farther away from the screen. It's harder to see the screen, and then your arms are further forward. So you want those armrests to go forward and backward, and then also they swivel and tilt, so you can move them out to position your elbows. If you have larger arms, or if you are skinny like me and you keep your elbows close together, it's really nice for that. Also, it's really nice just if your desk gets in the way, you can swivel them out so the desk, you're not gonna bump into the desk as easy. So that's the main thing that most office chairs do not do. They don't have armrests that can do that. And if I had a desk with just poor armrests, I would just remove them. Like if your armrests are giving you issues, if they getting in the way of the desk, just completely eliminate them. If you can't afford a better chair, like, yeah, just get rid of the armrest altogether. That's what I did with my Marcus chair from IKEA. I just unscrewed, unbolted the armrest, and I never saw them again. I just threw them in the dumpster. I was done with them because they constantly would get in the way and they weren't the right height for me. So I would say for most people, just get rid of your armrest. But this chair has perfect armrests, so I just wanted to finally have a desk that had good armrests so I wouldn't be putting that extra strain on my wrist. And that's what this chair does, is you're not gonna have the strain on your wrist because you're resting your arms on the armrest. So that's alleviating some of the pressure from your wrist. And then the rest of your arm is resting on the desk. It kind of removes a lot of that extra force from gravity that's just pushing down on your arms onto your desk. And I think that that can really alleviate symptoms that people can have from typing all day, or anyone that has tendonitis or carpal tunnel. And another thing that's really good about these chairs is they work really good for people that are really tall and people who are really short. And also it has an adjustable seat pan. And the seat pan is just the bottom of the chair that moves forward and back. It just makes it really good. If you have long legs, you move the seat pan further out. If you have short legs, you bring it closer. And that way you want just like this small little gap between the back of your knee and the chair. And you can create this when you have a seat pan that is adjustable. Most seat pans are not adjustable. And so if what ends up happening is the chair, like you have this large gap between your knee and the back of the chair, or you have no gap at all and your knee is constantly pressing on the back of the seat pan, which can cause circulation problems. So let's talk about how to properly set up this chair for the best ergonomic position possible. Okay, first off, you want the chair to have the right elbow position. So your arm should be around 90 degrees. And what you can do is just bring these up to the right arm height and just make sure they match on either side. This is a little bit high for me. My arms, this is gonna be a little bit low. I would bring it up about right there for my perfect arm height. Your wrist should actually be straight. So you wanna get your wrist as straight as possible as you're typing and resting the palms on your desk. You don't want a hard surface. You wanna make it soft, and then you also don't wanna make sure that you have any sharp edges on your wrists. That's gonna be just a good wrist and elbow position for the most part. Now, if the desk needs to be really close to you, you can push these back. You can also push them forward. And so for the most part, I just kind of keep them back a little bit and make sure that I'm not running into the desk. Now, when it comes to swiveling, so these will swivel back and forth. I tend to kind of like swivel them out, so my arms are just going into like a V formation to where I'm gonna be typing. And another thing that you can do too is you can just buy a split keyboard so your wrists aren't like deviating as much, like having that ulnar deviation, especially for people that have like really large wrists. Sometimes when you bring your wrists really close together, you start ulnarly deviating the wrist this direction on both sides, and that can just cause a lot of like strain on your wrists and just pain over time. Okay, so that's the wrist rest. Let's go into, if you reach down to the right of the chair, it's gonna be able to adjust the chair like lower and then also like really high. So right now I got it in the highest position. This is just a tad high for me. I'm like 5'10" and a half. So if you're 6 foot, like this chair is gonna be fine. If you're 6'2", if you're taller than that, you might need like a taller chair. Steelcase does make taller chairs that you could use. But I mean, if you're 6 foot, 6'2", this is gonna be fine. If you're like 5 foot, you can really bring it pretty low and not a problem at all. Now, the other feature is there's a tilt function here, and there's like a latch right on the right side. If you bring it all the way up, you can't tilt at all. If you bring it down a notch or 2 notches, you can tilt back like I was tilting earlier. If you bring it all the way down, you're gonna maximize your tilting. All the way back, all the way forward. So I like it at like I like it around the 2 setting. I think this is perfect. Now, the other thing with tilt is you can increase the amount of force of which you tilt, okay? So right here, I kind of have like at a medium force for me, but I can actually, on the right, you can loosen this up all the way. See, I think that's all the way open. And if I push back, it's just like completely loose. There's no tension at all. I'll push the latch down again, push back, I mean, I just like pretty much fall back in the chair because there's no tension. Now I'm gonna tighten the tension back up all the way as much as I possibly can here. Okay, and then I'm all the way back, so it's gonna tilt me all the way back. And it's like, I have to really push to get it all the way back there. And then if I just bring it up again, let's just kind of go to like a medium spot. I still have to push it really far back. So you have to really decide on how much force you want with the tilt. I just want it to be smooth, but it doesn't have like a perfectly smooth tilting force, and that's just something that I wish was a little bit better with this chair. Okay, so those are all the 3 adjustments on the right side. You have tilting force with the knob, you have the lever that is just gonna be tilting like 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then you also have the lever that's just gonna bring the chair up or bring it down. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the lever on the left side. You pretty much only have one lever, and it's the seat pan. And if you pull it up, the seat pan's gonna go forward and back, and you're really just adjusting this to make sure the back of the chair is close to the back of your knee. And you want to be able to fit like 3 or 4 fingers. I mean, I would say usually like 3 or 2 fingers between the back of your leg and the chair. This seat pan, for me, it doesn't fit perfectly right. I can bring it, I can bring it all the way to the back of my knee, but it almost feels like I'm sitting too far back in the chair, and I just don't like how that feels. So I can probably fit like, I would say more like 3 fingers between the back of my knee and the chair, and I feel like this actually isn't a bad position, and so I'm probably just gonna keep it out where it is. Okay, so the other position to consider is just lumbar. So right here, if I reach back behind me, there are 2 little clips in the back, is what I would call them, and you can bring them up or down to adjust the lumbar. And you wanna just kind of align them like right where your spine starts to curve. And I'm just gonna show you both right here. You can bring them up right here, and you can bring them down, and you just wanna align them the right position of where your spine curves. Okay, next up, you have like another knob right here. And this controls the firmness of the lumbar. It mainly just brings the lumbar in like to a tighter position. It kind of gives you more lumbar support or less lumbar support based on what you need. So if you have like a really big curvature there, if you're a bigger person, you're probably gonna want a little bit less lumbar support. And I would say overall, I'd probably give this chair like an 8 out of 10 for adjustability, for comfort. If you're looking at like what I came from, like the IKEA chair where there's not as much adjustability. I mean, that was a great chair. It was really comfortable, but it didn't have the adjustability. And so it's not gonna work for most people. It's just gonna work for someone who's like me, who's like 5'10" or 5'11". And I think that this chair is gonna just fit most people. I have noticed that the padding, like it's not the most comfortable chairs. There's a lot of other Steelcase chairs I would say that are a little bit better, but I've toured the Steelcase company. I've tried out all the chairs. I found, to my preference, the Leap was the most comfortable. I thought the Gesture was actually less comfortable. I didn't like the position of it as much. I think it looks way cooler. I would prefer the look of the Gesture over the Leap any day, but I do like the Leap. I think it's a cool chair. It looks good, and it is probably the most comfortable out of all of them. I know the EMEA, the Steelcase EMEA, is probably the more comfortable of the chairs, but I didn't like the backrest as much. So if you want just a really good chair for like the actual seat, it's like perfect, but I didn't like the backrest, and so that was the main reason why I decided on the Leap over the EMEA. All right, so that is my initial review of the Steelcase Leap. I'm gonna probably do a long-term review eventually in a year or so, or in 6 months, so I'll kind of give you some feedback. But for the most part, I think it's a great chair. I haven't had a ton of time to use it, but overall I think it's comfortable, it's really adjustable, and I think that for most people, this is the perfect chair that they should be getting. I'm gonna leave a link in the description if you're interested in a chair like this, and if you're interested in ergonomics overall. And if you're interested in ergonomics, I have a whole course on how to improve your ergonomics, so you can check that out. And I also have a link in the description below on how to become an ergonomist if you wanna do that. So check those out. I will see you in the next one. I hope you have a great day. Thanks.